Welcome, my people, and back at it again with another podcast episode. Welcome back to Care and Control. My name's Anthony, and I'll be your MC. This podcast today, this episode, will focus on compromise, especially in the government. So today, I'm joined by three guests. AJ, how you doing, AJ? What's
I'm
happening?
doing good over here. Yeah, it's
right.
pretty quiet this night. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Love to have you here. And next, Eton, what's poppin'?
Think gummy worms are good?
Gummy worms are good. I do believe that. All right, bet. And Miguel, last but not least, Miguel, how you feeling?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Love to have you back on the podcast.
Love to hear.
All right. So, we're talking about compromise, but what is compromise? It's the process of adjusting and blending different viewpoints in order to reach a solution that considers multiple perspectives instead of just one. So compromise isn't about one side winning or one side losing. It's about listening to opposing viewpoints, understanding different perspectives, and being willing to adjust in order to move forward. In government, compromise is especially important because decisions can affect millions of people, and complete agreement is rarely possible. But before we move into the political topics, I want to bring this down to a personal level. So, compromise isn't just something governments deal with. It's something we all experience in everyday life. So, I want to ask each of you, can you describe a time when you had to compromise with someone else? What was the situation and what was the outcome? AJ, do you have any insight?
Yeah, I think I could start off. I think a lot of times I have to compromise with my parents. A lot of times there's like, oh, I want to hang out with my friends. And then they hit me with who are they? Where are you going? All that stuff. Like, there's a bunch of stuff to it. And oftentimes they don't want to let me go. So I have to kind of make a compromise, And these compromises are pretty simple. They could be like giving them my location. I could give them like where I'm going to be, who I'm being with. They could talk to my other friends' parents as well if that's like good with them. It's mostly a lot of stuff combined in order to hang out with my friends, and oftentimes both sides get what they want. My parents know I'm safe, and I get to hang out with my friends.
All right. Thank you for sharing. Miguel, do you have any insight on this?
I kind of want to agree with AJ. I feel like it's also hard for me to hang out with my friends sometimes when my parents are like really worried about me. They're like also asking about like who am I hanging out with, about my location, basically similar things that AJ has
said. Okay, thank you for sharing. Thank you. Yes, Eton, do you have anything to say on this?
Yeah. Shoot, I had to use compromise today. Doing fantasy basketball, I had to make a trade.
All right, tell us about that trade.
It's either if I could ask for too little, but I know that's not what I want. But if I ask for too much, now my friend's not going to want to make that trade. So we had to go even base for, okay, I'll give you these two players that will help your roster, and you give me these three players that help my roster, and that's what made compromise, and we made the trade.
All right, bet. Well, love to hear that. So those examples show that compromise can be uncomfortable, but it's often necessary to make progress. The same idea applies to government, except the decisions affect entire communities and countries. With that in mind, let's move into our first topic. All right. So before we
wait, hold on, Tony. I gotta pause. I'll keep the video going.
And with that in mind, let's move into our first topic, ICE. So, but before we hear your opinions, let's hear some background. Let's have some background information. So what is ICE? ICE is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is known as ICE. It's a federal agency responsible for enforcing immigration laws in the United States. Supporters argue that ICE is necessary for maintaining national security and enforcing the law, while critics believe its practices can be harmful, especially towards undocumented immigrants and families. Because this issue involves both public safety and human rights, it's become highly versatile, making compromise difficult but very important. With that background in mind, do you think compromise is possible when it comes to ICE? What might compromise look like from your perspective, AJ?
Sorry for cutting you off there, Tony. But I think that ICE is a very complicated topic. I do think that there is a compromise. I think that a lot of people think that their practices are unsafe. They're just like taking people that are U.S. citizens. They're like doing illegal things that like would be standard for our cops. So my idea for ICE of making a compromise is kind of bringing them back down to that level of like the rules that we have for police officers. For example, I believe that we should bring a rule where ICE has to have search warrants if they're trying to commit searches on certain places, whether this is like whatever zone that they're going to. And I also think that they should have something like a body cam so that we can physically see what they do. Because oftentimes there has been like shootings recently where people are mad at the fact that they're shooting pretty much unarmed civilians. And with this body cam, I think we could see what their reasoning was to doing these things, if it was good or bad. And yeah, that's pretty much my compromise.
All right, thank you for that. Love to hear it. Great. Miguel, do you have any insight on this? Any way to compromise?
I feel like there like is a way that we could compromise. I feel like a way that we could compromise with ICE is that like maybe release like clear information about like the detainees they do. You know, like maybe like a little bit more about the data.
Data, release more data.
I feel like that'd be interesting. It's just like it's too like a wide variety of people are taking. You know, like it could be up to U.S. Americans or just like literally anyone right now.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, release more information from
Yeah.
people. Okay, okay. Itan, you have anything to say on this? Any compromises you see?
I think the compromise we can make is getting more information if the person is legal or not, because that's one of the big things. And then two, keeping the family together, because I know they sometimes they'll deport like the mom, and then the kids are just stuck with the dad. I think if one family member should get deported, I think it'll just be more fluent, more simple, no hazards, no problems if we just keep the whole family together.
Keeping the whole family together. Can you explain a bit more on what you mean on that?
So I like when they first started, I know families were getting broken up, splitting up, uh bad things were happening, and then that would cause now that's making ICE look like oh they're just splitting families up. So keeping the family together won't cause as much hazard and make ICE look bad when they're just trying to do their job.
Okay, okay. I hear what you're saying. Thank you for that. So, as we move on from ICE, we can see that there's some compromises that were set. Body cams, more released information on the detained, and keeping families together, since those seem to be prominent issues in there. So I believe those are pretty good compromises. So let's move on to our next topic. Our next topic, gun control. So gun control refers to the laws and policies that regulate the sale, ownership, and use of firearms. Before we get on to what we think about the compromises of gun control, here are some background knowledge. Supporters believe that strict gun laws can reduce gun violence and increase public safety, while opponents argue that the gun ownership is a constitutional right and that too many regulations permit personal freedom. Because gun control involves safety, rights, and deeply held beliefs, it is one of the most controversial issues in American politics. So, considering both sides of the issue, where do you think compromise could happen in gun control, if at all? AJ?
So yeah, gun control is a very good topic to start off with. I think with like the topic here, a lot of things happen. There's like school shootings. There's murders happening in like public areas. I think this is a pretty bad thing. So my type of compromise here is probably regulations. I know you said regulations are like brought up often on the other side and that they're bad, but I think if we regulate who's being sold like the guns, then we can actually like crunch down on the amount of like younger people getting it, because oftentimes in stuff like school shootings it's a kid that goes to the school, not like an outer person. And then I also think that we should have like some tax subsidies on like storing these guns, where we can give people some like cash back to get a safe or some sort of case so that the guns don't end up in the wrong hands.
Hmm. So when you say like regulations more on like who gets their hands on the gun, usually at times gun stores like offer a time period in which like you want to buy a gun but you can't get it until like this time period passed. Maybe like when you change your mind or something. Do you mean something more stricter than that, or what were your thoughts?
I think it's kind of like IDing someone, like for like alcohol usage. I think that it should like you should be able to own a gun at 18 because you can legally serve in the military at that point. But I also think that for like regulation wise, we need to do a bit of a better background check. If there's someone that's been to jail or has committed other crimes that are related to that, and they have violent tendencies, I wouldn't like allow that person to own a gun.
All right, all right. Thank you for that. Yeah, that makes sense. Miguel, you have anything to say on this?
I feel like also kind of like AJ said, kind of give them like cash back so they could like maybe buy like a safe for the gun that they have. It could be like a required firearm to be stored securely, like, and just make sure that have a clear background check, make sure they haven't been to jail or just have any, bad things that look something bad that looks on them. There you go.
So when you say like storage or something that should be required of gun, like when you're buying a gun, you should have something that you can put the gun in. Do you mean
Yes.
that for like the person there, or you're like kind of worried about maybe they have kids and you want to keep that out of their reach?
Yeah, maybe just keep it out of anyone else's age and just having maybe just your range, which just in your range.
All right, all right. Thank you for your insight. Etan, yeah, you were listening to what we were saying. What do you think about this?
I feel like AJ probably put it the best. The background check is probably the main factor. That I feel like that's just the main factor just going forward. And then the safe, that's a huge play into it. Keeps it secure for you. So your kids don't get it, don't bring it around because you never know what they could do with it if they get their hands on it. So I think AJ just laid it out perfectly.
Well said, yes. So overall, what we were hearing is, AJ, you said it pretty good.
Yeah, thank you.
Regulations should be a bit, I guess, a little more tighter or more enforced, and people should be given, or it should be stated that you should have somewhere to put your gun that is out of reach of anyone besides yourself, and there should be an age limit into when you can get a gun or more tighter background checks for when you want to get a gun. So, to wrap things up today, today shows that compromise is difficult, both in personal situations and in government. Even when people strongly disagree, compromises can encourage dialogue, understanding, and progress. Thank you to all our guests for sharing their perspectives and listening.
Yeah, thank you
So
for having
now
us
we'll
on the
wrap it
show,
up.
Tony.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, Etan. Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, AJ.
You're welcome.
And that
Thank you for
wraps it
being
up.
here.
Thank you. And that wraps it up for today's episode on Care and Control. Until the next one, guys.